contacts in makes my eyes burn. But I just built some fall presets in Lightroom, so we're gonna go drive down to the river, take the dogs out, get some exercise, and see what those presets look like, and you know, if I made crap or not. We'll see. We are making a trek out to the river. Oh, holy crap, there's the sun. Yeah, that's just red. So this is the spot. Britt, say hi.
Hello. Mila.
Gonna take some shots, try out those presets a little bit later. This is the last I'll be vlogging right here. New setup. Look here, not there, look here. But I can actually see myself, which is, you know, nice. So yeah, that was a lot of smoke. So much smoke that it kind of kills the fall vibe a little bit. Everything had this just tint of yellow, and so much so that I just trying to correct it with white balance, just total nightmare. So instead of using any photos that I took yesterday, I'm gonna use some photos that look even more fall-like that I took back in, I think, May or April? But when it comes to fall, kind of autumn shots, everybody thinks of that gold hue, right? That kind of burnt orange, crisp look. That's not really my thing. I kind of like that subtle, slightly washed out, white skies look that you get, you know, more often than anything in fall, especially fall here. And being that we live in the evergreen state, we don't actually get a whole lot of those autumn colors, not compared to what my wife and I are used to back on the East Coast. So I kind of like to edit my photos to look a little bit more like where I live. Gonna do a couple different styles. Gonna do one that's, you know, like that warm kind of color, but a little bit more towards my tonality. And then I'm gonna do one that's, you know, something I really like that I think is pretty indicative of later on in the year, is that kind of crushed, desaturated blacks look. So let's do it. So this is my lovely wife. What she sees in this mug, no idea. High school sweethearts. I was probably a lot better looking back then than I am now. This is a raw shot, straight out of the camera. I just did a couple of things before this video to skin tone correct, soften up some features, stuff like that. But this is a raw file, and no color correction has taken place yet. So the first thing I do is come in and see how hot the photo is. And what I mean by that is how white the whites are and how blown out the brights and the highlights are. That's kind of my style and aesthetic. I do like those hot, contrasty images. I want that high contrast. I like those bright highlights. That says fall to me. So this one, I could go for a little bit darker in some of the blacks and the shadows, and a little bit more deep in that white. So let's pull up that contrast a little bit. Right around there. We'll see how that is. A little counterintuitive though, I'm actually gonna drop the highlights. I want the highlights to come through in contrast, not so much the highlights. Dropping the highlights helps me get that, you know, kind of a little bit darker mood, gives a little bit more texture to the skies. And like I said, I like that kind of washed out, slightly vintage look. So what I do to kind of get that is I drop the shadows, but bring up the blacks. It makes it almost kind of close back to where we were at start, but it's just got a little bit more contrast in those mountains, the hills, a little bit more of that kind of fall off from the fog that day. Not messing with curves yet. I know some people go straight away to curves to try to get their light right, but more than anything, first I want to concentrate on colors, because again, that's what fall is. It's colors. Skipping temperature, going straight down to HSL. What do you see most? Greens. Let's start messing with the greens. Hue. Slam it to yellow. Let's go to yellow. Slam it to orange. Now, there is some yellow in skin tones, but skin tones are predominantly reds and oranges, so you don't really have to worry too much about messing with the hue in yellows, how it's going to affect skin tones. Once you start messing with luminance in yellows, that could cause some artifacting in the skin. So careful with luminance, don't worry so much with hue. So when we come to the reds, really the main spots that there are reds are in my wife's sweater and in some of the flushing in her cheeks. So we're gonna be somewhat modest with that, okay? Also going to turn the saturation up a little bit and then bring down the luminance just a hair. So far, liking where that is. But right through here, you notice how it just looks a little bit weird. Like we've changed the highlights and everything. Now we've changed the colors, so it's just splitting between those tones. The trees, they look fake. We're gonna fix that. Like I said, I like hot highlights. I like things that are dark, but at the same time, there's a ton of contrast. The way I like to get rid of those weird kind of shade differences around areas like this, wherever the predominant color is, kind of raising the luminance in this situation. And that just will make it look a little bit more natural. Now to even that out, let's drop the greens. And you see it's balancing it a little bit out. If I slammed it up, it then starts to look a little bit weird again. So let's bring them down a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Now all this area back here, this is all controlled by that blue. I know some people really like slamming the blues to get that teal wash look. To me, that's way summer. And I don't like messing with the hue too much, but I do feel like if it goes closer to like the purples and magentas, I feel like that looks a little bit more autumn feeling. Bring that over here. I'm going to bring the highlights up and the saturation down just a little bit to try to make it have like that dead sky look that you get in autumn sometimes. Purples and magentas, I don't really worry about that, especially not too much in this. Now let's look at warming it up a little bit. All right, much better. Now is when I go to the curves, because now I've got the color the way I want. Now I know there's not gonna be any kind of surprises when I go back in and change curves that maybe just doesn't work with the luminance of the color. So, moody. A little too much. Right about there. And then those hot highlights. Okay. I'm liking the way that's looking from just that kind of hard contrast, hard highlights, dying almost autumn look. But she looks kind of dark, dead in the face, right? Use masks, you know? Use the radial filters. I'm gonna go to the one that I already had and just gonna bring up shadows just a little bit, drop contrast just a hair, and looks kind of orange a little bit. So you can either desaturate just a hair to make it look a little bit normal, or cool it down just a wee bit, which I kind of like that a little bit because it gives that cool crisp air look in the fall. Yeah, I like that. All right, so we're done, right? No, not done. Split toning. This is generally the last thing I do on a photo like this to give it kind of that fall look. Autumn is generally playing a balance between those blues and those golds. And then just kind of play with that where you think it should be best. And after that, actually, we're gonna go and bring down luminance. I like that. For me, that's a very kind of autumn feeling photo, still kind of moody. still looks pretty natural, but enough that you know that it's been edited enough. This isn't fantastic work. If I were trying to do something really good, I'd pop it in Photoshop. There would be layers upon layers upon layers. This is great for social. A quick before and after. To me, that's fall. That's autumn, right? Okay, last one. I mentioned one of the things I like and I kind of associate with later on in the year editing and styles is that kind of black crushed out look, desaturated, hot whites. That's what I like. It's very much a style, it's very much aesthetic, it's not really natural, but it's cool. I like it. It's good for social, people really gravitate towards it. If you grid out your social with that, I guarantee you're gonna get followers. So now a lot of people would look at this photo and say, oh, it's really dark. You know, it's got a lot of blacks, it's got some highlights. This is a really contrasty photo. It's actually not. And the way you can tell is how it's kind of like washed out. It's not really black, it's a little grayish in these areas. It's just underexposed. It's not high contrast. And I have people all the time say, it's with the high contrast shots. It's not. I just like darker photos. This is high contrast. We don't want it that much. We do want contrast. Gonna bring those highlights down a little bit and bring those shadows way up. There we go. I also want those whites up because I kind of want a brightness all around. Now it's making a little bit noisy, but we'll take care of that in a little bit. Blacks, you go there. Okay. Now with this, I am gonna go straight to the curves. I do want to get, because what I'm dealing with is blacks and highlights. So I'm concerned about the curves. That's the first thing I'm doing in this before I go to colors. So with seeing it like that, let's bring those shadows up just whoa, what is going on here? All right, now colors. This is looking weird. I know, trust me. Greens. Still want to change the hue down because we don't want it completely desaturated. So let's change it, slam it all the way to the left. Desaturation, just a hair. Yellows, same thing, but not quite, because I don't want it to have that orangey red look. Desaturation down quite a bit. Reds, I actually want them up. All right, now the rest of this is predominantly blue. So just gonna bring that desaturation down a little bit. There, looking pretty good. All right, already this is kind of what I'm going for. It's got that, you still have a lot of the oranges in the rocks and everything, but it still feels desaturated. It feels almost black and white. I know what you're saying, it's really dark, it's hard to see. We're gonna fix that, get there, don't worry. Next up, clarity. I wanted to have that kind of ruddy appeal, that texture to it. And you see, that kind of brightened it up already. But I know what you're saying. It's really dark in the middle. We'll get there. I actually want to raise the temperature in this because there's still some blue in there, but I don't want to desaturate that blue. I just kind of want to make it a little bit of a moodier, warm, slightly warm feeling. We're gonna go to temperature. And that just makes it feel a little bit more later in the year. To me, at least. So now we're at a kind of a point where you either want it like this, looking crushed, or you want a little bit more definition in it. Before we get there, let's just try to get around all that noise that's up in here, unless you like that grain. I really don't if I'm doing something like this. I'm just gonna get rid of it real quick with some noise reduction. But I still want that detail there. I don't want it to look like it's made out of ice cream. Detail. A little bit more reduction. More detail. That's good enough for me. I gotta like that. I should bring that down a little bit. Oops. So, add a bit of texture back in. Like I said, this is not a realistic looking shot. It's not supposed to be. This is something that's only an aesthetic for social. That's really it. This wouldn't pass as a quality photo for anywhere else. But it looks cool. So from here, it's really kind of up to you with how you want it to look. This is what I would say is the base for creating that kind of desaturated, moody look of a photo. That really kind of hard blacks, not completely crushed, so you still have definition in them, but this is moody all day. So if you want to add a little bit more brightness into it, you can mess with the curves, bring them up a little bit. If you want it to be slightly more washed out, you do that. Ooh, not that. Then redarken it just a hair. You can bring the shadows down a bit, blacks down, whatever it is that you want to do, however you want it to look. Again, the point of this is to provide that look foundation for you to fine tune for how you like it to look. Not everybody's the same, not to mention, if everybody uses the exact same preset, it's kind of boring, right? Personally, I kind of like that. I think that looks realistic, moody enough, you don't lose enough of definition, you have highlights across the logo, right here on the front of the headlight. I don't like that truck there, but if I were in Photoshop, I'd be getting rid of it. So that was just a quick run through, how I make a preset, how I work with colors in Lightroom. So last little bit, if you want to use some of my presets, give them a try for yourself, see how they look on your photos. You gotta do two things. One, you gotta follow me on Instagram. Follow me on social, engage. And number two, just send me a DM. Say, hey, saw your video, wanted to check out your presets, could you send them to me? I'm not gonna be making any money off of presets anyway. So, follow me on Instagram, @somerebel, DM me. We'll talk. I'll send you some stuff. It'll be cool. All right, till next time. Oh yeah, one more thing. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Tell me what you like, tell me what you wanna see. Kind of getting more into a groove with this thing. That's it. Sorry, I forgot about that.